I am Bryce Newberger, and this is the Kinship Chronicles, Children of the Phoenix, Chapter 3. As the moon loomed overhead the Ridgewood Tavern, voices clamored in chaotic symphony. Bryn sat at the bar, a mug of ginger beer in hand. He was impatiently tapping his fingers, obviously waiting for someone who was late. While he was sipping his ale and lamenting his current situation, he decided to turn about, recline against the bar, and wait for someone to tip the bard for a song or story. There were many things in this village that one could count on, especially in the tavern. It was known that Baird would argue with Holt, and it would inevitably turn into a fistfight. It was known that at least once a month, half the town would get drunk and wreck the tavern only to repair it as a community. And it was known that at least once per night, every night, someone would pay Chanik, the bard, for a song or tale. Chanik was unique among bards in that he was a Cyborii, a race of half-machine people who had hailed from overseas. It was said they lacked imagination, though it was they who had invented the ever-popular crossbow and the rare and almost fabled flintlock pistol. Chanik had told the legend that many considered blasphemy. He had said that millions of years before life existed on this planet, the stars were filled with worlds and other races. He said that a large explosion had ended all complex life in the cosmos and had only left microbiological organisms to evolve and reclaim complex existence. The legend continues to say that one star galleon had crash-landed on this planet and that his people had evolved from organisms left on that ship, slowly integrating parts of archaic technology into themselves. As Bryn mulled the story over in his mind, he contrasted it to passages he had been taught from the Creator's Book of Life. He was shaken from his pondering by the sound of a coin clinking into the bottom of a tin mug. Bryn brightened up. Someone had paid the bard. Chanik stood up and let his left eye, the mechanical one, glimmer a bright yellow. "What would you like, story or song?" The villager who had paid selected story, specifically history. Chanik's right arm disassembled and whirled around until it produced a cone-shaped object that he could speak through so all would hear him. He cleared his throat in mock exaggeration. "And what historical tale would you like to hear?" The villager thought for a moment. "I don't know. Anything. I just want to hear a story." Bryn was renowned for his good humor and easygoing nature, but his patience had been very severely tried by waiting to meet this time-challenged contact. A simple story suggestion would be harmless, or so he thought. "Why not tell us the story of the War of Greed?" He suggested the story with hidden contempt. Unknown to others, this story would be considered a slight against his contact. All of the patrons rejoiced, as most of them were human, and this story was a favorite to all humans. Chanik's eye turned a happy green. The entire tavern settled down within moments as any loud louts were clubbed over the head and shushed. "The War of Greed," he began. "Since the beginning of time, humans have dominated all regions of Adamus. That is the world, making vast empires and claiming all land as their home." A few men in the audience nodded proudly and smiled smugly. "But they had never been contested. That is, until the Beastmen emerged from the uncharted lands." Bestane was the true name of the Beastmen. The new name was more of a racial slur that had become permanent after the war. Bestane roughly translates to better or greater in their language. This was their mindset towards the other races, as they were a large race of humanoid beings, standing easily a head taller than any human. They looked like humans in every way except for their hard-set features, dark green tinted skin, and all of them had muscles to rival a rhino bull. "The Beastmen, though less in number, were able to challenge human supremacy. Humans could gain no ground in the war. As humans learned to forge steel weapons, the Beastmen stole them. As humans adopted new strategies, the Beastmen adapted them as well. As humans sought aid from the Elders, the dragons came to the aid of the Beastmen. It wasn't until the dragons betrayed the Beastmen that humans gained a monumental victory. King Draconin, Lord of all dragons, made a pact with humanity. Deliver the keys of Adamus to him, and he would deliver the Beastmen into their hands." The keys of Adamus were legendary items said to give humanity dominion over the world. The story continues to tell that man handed these keys to Draconin, knowing they could easily take them back, as humans outnumbered the dragons 1,000 to 1. Channick finished with, "It was a great victory for humankind, but this foolish trade is what ushered in the Dark Age, though that is a story for another time." The crowd remained silent after the story. This tale usually focused on heroic deeds of human heroes of old. Channick had delivered the unpopular take where humans were responsible for ushering in the Dark Age. Channick sensed the poor mood and quickly broke into song, choosing the ballad of Ryle the Royal versus Grim the Gore-Thirsty, a song that depicted beastmen as stupid and humans as cunning. As the whole tavern joined in, Bryn would soon pay for his passive-aggressive choice and story. The door to the tavern slammed open so hard that the wood cracked and splintered against the wall. A large, muscled, green-skinned beastman stepped through the entryway. All fell silent as Skadel skimmed his eyes over the crowd, letting his gaze come to rest on Channick. "Been telling stories again, Anik." The tension could be cut with a knife, and if the situation wasn't handled tactfully, that's not all that would be cut with a knife. Channick remained calm. Few were dumb enough to pick a fight with a Cyborii, as their mechanical appendages were always disguising a weapon somewhere inside of them. Not to mention they could bend iron with their mechanized strength. He, however, was in no mood to test the stupidity of this angered buffoon. "Just performing as requested," he stated flatly. "That so?" said Skadel. "And which of you lot fancies that tale?" Bryn cursed himself for giving into his anger. He knew what he was doing when he requested the story. Skadel was the one he was waiting to meet, the one who was late and was the reason why he had to miss dinner with his family tonight. Bryn was a big man. He could thank blacksmithing for that. Dealing with cast iron, steel, and hammering all day did wonders for his physique. But none of his physicality could match a beastman's brute force. If this boiled down into a fight, Bryn would have to call on much darker aid for support. Channick acted as if he were thinking hard. "Ricard paid for the story, but the request was called out from the audience." Before Skadel could ask the obvious next question, Channick continued, "Though I don't know who gave the request." Skadel was about to continue his investigation when Terry the barkeeper interjected. "Forget all that, Dale. Have a tall mug of blood brandy on me." That was the best stuff in the house. To a beastman, at least. If there was one thing that could diffuse Skadel's wrath, it was free ale. He gave a grunt and sat at the bar next to Bryn. The blacksmith unclenched in relief. Within seconds, the tavern was back to normal. After he finished his glass, Skadel bought another mug and told Bryn to grab a booth so they could conduct their business. Once they were settled in away from the others, Skadel asked in a gruff undertone, "You bring it?" Bryn retrieved a cloth-wrapped object. Skadel unwrapped the parcel to reveal a punching dagger, a knife that had knuckle holes instead of a normal handle. "Why all the secrecy?" he asked. It was not normal for him to deliver a weapon request all cloak and dagger. He normally would have refused and told the customer to pick it up during normal business hours, but Skadel wasn't really asking, and there was nothing illegal about it, so Bryn decided not to cause any unnecessary trouble. "Never mind that." He fixed a cold gaze on Bryn. "But if word does get out about this request, you can bet I'll be paying you a visit." Instantly bemoaning his choice of participation, Bryn sought a quick escape. "You have nothing to fear. And the payment?" Skadel dropped a small satchel on the table. Bryn grabbed it and emptied its contents. It was 40 drakes. That was 10 drakes more than agreed. Bryn looked up. "This is too much. You've overpaid." "A little extra to keep you quiet." Bryn didn't like that answer. Not only was Skadel a money hoarder and a tight pocket, but he had also threatened to ensure silence, and there was no way a brute like him would think more was needed. He decided either someone was bankrolling him, or Skadel was certain he'd get his drakes back, most likely off Bryn's dead corpse. He backtracked from that thought. Skadel liked to break some bones now and again, but murder? Certainly no murderer would reside in the small town of Ridgewood. No one could get away with murder in a tight community like this. He realized he was pondering too much in front of his suspect and decided to lay old habits of paranoia aside. "Thank you," he said in false gratitude, and then stood from the table. "You're not staying?" Skadel raised an eyebrow. "We're not all bachelors," Bryn said cheerfully. "I have children to go tuck in." The explanation seemed good enough for the savage, and Bryn was soon on his way out the door. On his way out, he heard a racial slur escape from a drunkard aimed at Skadel. Bryn looked back to see the hulking brute had already seized the drunk by the collar and had lifted him off the floor. Bryn was beginning to about face when out of the corner of his eye he saw the drunken lout raise his hand and stick an accusatory finger in his direction, pointed right at him, shouting, "He requested it!" Bryn did a double take, and when his gaze returned, Skidell still had the shrew lifted, but his attention was fully on Bryn, giving him a murderous glare which melted into some sort of look of self-revelation, and then rested into an evil smile. Bryn darkened and quickly went out the doors, rushing on his way home. Thank you for listening. I'm Bryce Newberger, and this has been the Kinship Chronicles, Children of the Phoenix. If you enjoyed what you heard and you'd like to purchase the full book, then either look up New Books on the Google Play bookstore, NEU Books, or simply click the link in the description. The book is only $5, and I appreciate your support.